Hello everyone, happy new year. This is my first public live stream of the new year. I did a members live stream earlier, a couple. I'm going to share this link out. I'm going to cover some charts. Figured I should get live with everything nuking like this. People might appreciate it. Share this out on Twitter. All right, well, we have a lot of action. Give people a couple minutes to get in here. I have some shorts running. I'll kind of go over my my kind of core ideas here on a few alts and Bitcoin. And some of the trades I took, some that worked, some that didn't. Some are working beautifully. And some kind of key local levels coming into play. But anyways, let's dive into things. Just want to give people a couple minutes to click on the link. Bitcoin leading the way on this nuke, but a lot of alts much weaker, much weaker. Okay, so let's start off with some alts. I posted about some bearish ideas on Pepe on Twitter. So I do have the short running, a swing short from the highs here, and Pepe's been quite weak compared to let's go here, compared to Bitcoin over the last day or two. But this is just a couple days ago. I took this short up here, really tight invalidation at those local highs about 4 days ago. Anyways, I just explained in the members Discord that I've opened up a short there on Pepe, and I'll just kind of briefly go over this idea on the charts, and then we're going to move to other alts. But the main idea is actually quite bearish, but there's some intermediary levels here that need to be lost for those to come into play. This could generate a bounce for sure, but the main idea is to first come in and take this low, and that's why I'm interested in this swing short. It's about 60% away. But again, I have a short from higher, but we have to lose some of this structure first. We'll see if that happens or not. There's lots of levels to be in play here. But anyways, I like this idea because we get this nice, clean, let me pull this here. Got moved a little bit. We get this nice, really clean GP right at our pivot low, 618. That's why I like about shorting this, and I shorted the GP of this move. This is the daily chart. Maybe come back up and retest this high. I'd be interested in longing this. Actually, it's a 120% move to the upside, 60% move to the downside, and then maybe looking for a swing short. Some people got upset about this idea on Pepe. It's just taking it one level at a time. Shorts from up here. We'll see what happens at these local levels, but maybe we can break down, take this impulse low, get some of the more bear scenarios playing out. I came into the day with quite a short bias earlier. I also have some shorts running on XRP. So I started off the day in the Discord explaining some shorts I was interested in, and I'll walk through those really quickly. But the main idea here was that, I said for those who've missed the live stream, I did a members live stream. In my view, the overall context for XRP is looking for a fourth wave retracement. Two of the more likely scenarios lead to much more downside. And until this triangle breaks, so while we are trading around the triangle highs, I'm willing to short the downtrend structure locally with plans to carry some of the position as a deeper trade. So this is just idea of taking these highs. That was the last idea on XRP. Coming up, this is the 15-minute chart. And we ended up getting such a nice clean reaction off of that level on XRP as well. Just looks so clean and obvious to short in hindsight. Just mentioning that to the members, that you just have this idea of just coming up and wicking these highs. So I will say I took one short here and got stopped out of it. And I was willing to short both levels because really playing this initial rejection off this trend line and was willing to short. I'll show the short I took that got stopped out. Was willing to take this initial short, sweeping these highs, and then when that got stopped out, to take the short, sweeping these highs back into the trending structure. You have really nice clean invalidation because until this triangle breaks, although I'm bullish towards all-time highs on XRP on the higher time frames, you have this triangle idea or this idea of coming down and taking these lows as the primary ideas. So I'm going to be looking for longs around here. And the way I'll trade this is I'll look for some consolidation strength at this trend line, and I'll be willing to trade this towards all-time highs, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8. And if that gets stopped out, then I'll take this as a separate trade at the lows. Two longs I'm willing to take. Looking for a sweep of all these consecutive higher lows, two different ideas. Willing to put on 2 stop losses for that trade. But yeah, I just mentioned that. So I kind of want to do a quick recap. I said I should say that on these lower time frames, I have a bit of a short bias here, which should be taken into account as a possible bias that might be clouding some judgment, because it was just looking for a bunch of shorts, just taking scalp shorts on Rollbit, taking shorts on everything, and had some really nice clean 1-minute levels on Litecoin there. And anyways, happy to be in some shorts, but I want to look at some of the potential downside targets here on different alts. Go to the 1-minute chart here. Just like really nice clean wick up through these highs on Litecoin. Nice continuation ideas. But I think the main idea here for me on Litecoin, there's 2 ideas I'm looking at. One is to come and test this ascending structure into this GP, into this low. And I'm probably willing to put on some risk there. And if we lose that and I take a stop, then I'm going to trade. I'll zoom out a little bit. I'm going to look to trade at these wick lows to this deeper ascending structure, retest this major GP. We've tapped it once. But I might end up in a situation where I'm taking 2 trades that both work. Maybe we get something like this. I take some profits and then I trade this again, get stopped out, break even on the rest. But trading these much higher. And if we break all of this down, then, well, things are getting kind of bearish. But I'm trading this towards this $300 level on Litecoin. This is kind of a messy chart here. I was going over it on the members live stream. Same thing. So Doge rejecting from the GP. We also have a point of control in this region. We're just pointing out that I'd be interested in longs similar to Litecoin here into this ascending structure, retesting these highs, tight invalidation into this, into this. I know it's a lot to follow. I'm just trying to go over some of this stuff quickly, and maybe I'll answer some questions. But this is just earlier today. I did a members live stream, and then I just shared all of the charts I talked about at the time. But you can see, so for example, like I was looking for lower on ETH here to take these lows, but when this low came, this doesn't really look particularly interesting, so I didn't actually take a long there. I got on a live stream. I did take one long setup on DOT that didn't work. I didn't really like it. Took that on the members live stream as well, but I have so many shorts running. I thought I should probably be willing to take at least one long. And I took a stop on a Bitcoin long. So I want to just talk about those ideas briefly, kind of just for disclosure. It doesn't really matter, but people get, you know, they'll say you don't talk about losing trades, you only talk about winning trades. I'll talk about I'm in a lot of winning trades right now. I'll talk about the losers. I don't really know if I have too much to say about DOT here. These were all the levels of interest, this low, same idea into this ascending structure, and this low. I'll probably share a couple of these charts in the public Discord. But anyways, things look so bearish on this move to the downside. So I'm happy to have some shorts running. I have shorts on a lot of altcoins. And things can get much more bearish quite quickly. But anyways, I'll go over the setup that I wanted to long and how I executed that trade. And it looked quite nice at the time. So I'll go over it really quickly. I was actually quite patient with it as well. Let's go down to the 1 minute chart. So the whole idea that I had for the trade, actually let's go to the 5 minute chart. Was right around here was the New York Open. So as throughout the day, Bitcoin had bearish divergences forming an order flow. So I'm going to just point that out really quickly. Go to the Discord. So I was just pointing out, as I was taking shorts on alts as well, but Bitcoin was consolidating. This is just the low time frame updates. Bitcoin was consolidating with bearish absorption. So I pointed this out here, a bit of bearish absorption starting to form on Bitcoin. More bearish absorption down lower. I prefaced this, by the way, in the low time frame channel that I'm going to be spamming some updates on low time frames today. And so this channel is going to get kind of full of updates. But so we're consolidating with this really bearish absorption. And as price was working its way down, I kind of went between two channels here, actually. I had said that ideally I'd be getting live for this setup at the New York Open. So we had a really nice timing influence right into these lows, into this trending structure, into the GP, bearish absorption forming on Bitcoin. Certainly some opportunities to get short there. And that was about 4 hours away. And right at the New York Open, we're coming down to that level. So I actually didn't take the trade initially. And the reason I didn't take it off the initial bounce here was because a lot of the bearishness was still intact in the order flow. So even here, I didn't take it, and I just said, you know what? This does just not look compelling. This is a massive bearish divergence forming here. So I'm going to wait for lower. And I ended up actually taking a long on the liquidation wick to the downside, and then ending up just having to cut that pretty quickly. Something like 0.5%, because even though things were we were getting a nice bounce, and I'll go over the order flow here really quickly. Structurally, things were just not looking good. So I'll point out the order flow here. So the reason I didn't want to take the trade initially, well, first off, we had these bearish divergences forming here before this move down. Looked really nice into the level. We front run the level. This is as we came to the New York Open. And I didn't take the trade here because we had massive bearish divergences forming. And so I just said on the members live stream, a little bit of patience here because this looks quite bearish. You have huge longs opening, getting absorbed, waiting for some of that delta to flush. And then when we saw this big flush in Delta, the first 100 million, another 90 million, I tried a long and price reacted, but then started breaking down. I just cut the long. I saw no reason to hold it because some of those deeper levels can come into play quite quickly. So anyways, I have a lot of shorts running. But I talked about the losing trades here. And the reason I cut it, I cut it up here was just recognizing that this, if we don't start bouncing immediately, this just gets really bearish really quickly. And these levels start coming into play really quickly. In fact, we might get this kind of interesting level any moment now. So the two main ideas I'm looking at Bitcoin, but one of the problems is I have to go to sleep here. Let's just clean up this chart a little bit. I'd repulled this level. This could be a nice level, even as an intermediary level, but the major idea is down into this low. And I'd shared this in the, this was from a educational video. I shared this in the public Discord too, I believe. Where is this? Where's this count? I don't know where I put that count actually. Did I just delete it by accident? That's unfortunate. All right. Well, I know the gist of it. Let's just delete everything here. The primary medium time frame idea I like is to come and take these lows and get a push up to this 115K region, and then maybe looking for the 70K region. Something like let's repull all the levels because the folder got deleted. Something like this. It's on log scale, by the way. Take all these daily candle lows, push up to a new all-time high, and then I'd be looking for new all-time highs. So this is kind of the more bearish scenario, you could say, on the medium time frames. There are some really interesting levels locally here, but this is my primary idea for now. But could be interesting to look for trades off of some of these local levels. It's just kind of, it's hard to get too excited about some of these local levels on Bitcoin because, man, so many alts are rejecting from major levels. And I personally think that this 2150 level, 2150 could actually come relatively quickly on ETH. I know people think that's crazy, but it's 35% away. And so many alts rejecting off of some major levels, so look quite bearish. I have to clean up a lot of these charts probably before I share them. I went through each of these step by step on a live stream earlier and left me with quite messy ideas. All right, let me look at some let me look at the chat really quick. I guess ADA, yeah, so I took this ADA short as well. And no structure here if we lose these lows. Yeah, this could be kind of an interesting idea of reclaiming this, but I really like this idea of just coming back down and retesting these lows. Into the log GP, this move. Maybe get there a little slower with the retest of this trend line. Yeah, that's the primary idea I like on ADA. I guess I won't cover all the alts here, but yeah, it's kind of hard to say not looking for lower. Bitcoin taking a pretty major low here. You can look at order flow. This could be kind of scalpable too, but some pretty aggressive longs opening. So lots of longs obviously getting stopped out here. 86 million delta. Some aggressive longs opening here off the sweep of this low. Maybe a little bit of a bearish divergence starting to form. I personally just be, I'm more interested. I'm not going to be able to manage any trades over the next few hours while I sleep. Be more interested in just waiting for some consolidation and see if we can develop some local bullish divergences. Order flow has been quite bullish in this uptrend, and I'm going to end up with another bullish divergence between these lows. So order flow is not really agreeing with the technical idea, which is taking the major lows. But we can end up with some bearish divergences in here again pretty quickly. We can keep an eye on order flow here to see if anything interesting happens. But nothing surprising happening now. A ton of longs stopped out, decreasing open interest, big negative delta. And then now we have some longs chasing back in off this sweep. 80 million positive delta. Increasing open interest. Makes sense too, right? A lot of people get stopped out of their positions. They see the reaction off these lows, start chasing in. But personally not interested in trading this first reaction. Definitely could have been scalpable though. Nice little 1% bounce. And we might get a sizable rally off of it, but personally I'm just going to be waiting for some structure to form. If we start getting something like this with big bullish divergences, or even higher low, then I'd consider longing that as well. But we'll have to see what happens. Would be interested in these lows getting retested on Matic. But yeah, looking at alts seem much more clearly bearish than Bitcoin. Maybe I have a little bit of a bias because I'm short. But I am short from the highs, the idea of swing short, so. Maybe I found the bias at the right time. I think I'll say this. I'm looking for quite a bit lower on alts as my bearish thesis. That's why I'm short on them. And I am looking for a little lower on Bitcoin and maybe a new all-time high to come and take these lows. But I'd say if you have your own ideas, definitely trade your own ideas. I wouldn't mind, honestly, just letting some price action develop and looking with a fresh perspective tomorrow at the charts. And if I miss some trades, I miss some trades. But I don't really feel too compelled. You know, this is a nice little idea, sweeping of these daily lows, but I don't really feel so compelled to have a really strong thesis right now about any local levels. I'm happy just to let some price action play out. I have some deeper levels on some alts I'm interested in. And if I see kind of the context shifting a little bit, I might be interested in trading stuff locally here, but that'll be tomorrow. Someone says, what's your thesis for such a huge drop in ETH? For example, when economic factors and fundamentals are the best they've been in ages, question mark. I sincerely hope you're wrong about these alt setups. That would hurt me badly. Thank you for the stream. It's very educational. Well, yeah, maybe for your sake, I hope I'm wrong too. I'll be fine if my swing shorts don't play out. I'm just looking at the technical ideas here. I'm not really so concerned about the quote-unquote economic factors. I think it's quite, you know, you can get quite complacent. Let me clean off this chart here on ETH just to kind of make my point here. Get really complacent, like something like ETH, let's say, like, let's just look at the history of the chart. This is a 50% drop from here to here. This is a 35% drop. This is a 30% drop. This is a 50% drop. This is a 60% drop. This is a 53% drop. This is an 80% drop. This is a 32% drop. This is a 40% drop. And people are kind of like, how you get complacent, and what I mean by that is people will be sitting here and they'll be thinking, how the fuck is it possible that Bitcoin is going to go down 30%? It's like this, just unfortunately for people who think that's impossible and are positioned that way. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this isn't that far away, right? This is, I mean, if you just look at the history of the chart, right, we're basically there. Nice clean technical level, by the way. So, you know, when somebody says, like, it's just so, it literally, I don't think economically really matters. Like, nothing, it doesn't take much to get 40% move to the downside on ETH. I mean, I think what concerns me with the state of crypto and during kind of the bull market, as you'd say, it's not that people are bullish. It's that they get in their head that the things that happen all the time are impossible. So someone here says, I've got a friend who's so confident BTC isn't going down more than 10%, he's long at 10x isolated margin. Yeah. So people start doing stuff like that. They're like, okay, I'm just going all in, like 10x. There's no way Bitcoin's ever going to go down 10% again. Like, that's never going to happen. And literally that could just happen so easily by tomorrow, right? And, or they think there's no way ETH is ever going to go down 30% again, 40% again. So they're all in 3x, right? But this is like nothing. And it's like even this on Pepe, like, people will think this is insane. Like, there is no way this will ever happen. There's no way this will ever happen. That price will go back to the price it was last month. and they look at this chart that it's kind of a little concerning when people start thinking something like this is impossible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what I am saying is that it happens all the time. Go look at these charts. There's 65% on 55%, 50%. But every time price is up here, people think it's impossible that this is ever going to happen again, when it's never not happened. It's not to say that price has never not just kept going up a lot, but price has never not gone down 40, 50, 60%, right? So when everybody thinks it's impossible, and I'm not a perma bear. I mean, I was bullish on Pepe, and I took this long on Pepe towards all-time highs. I took this trade, and I was looking to short the sweep of these highs into the lows as well. But anyways, that's just my opinion. This just happens so easily. It doesn't matter that Trump's going to be president, in my view. I think it's always important that, you know, I'll say this for you, Bars. The gentleman said, I sincerely hope you're wrong about these alt setups. That would hurt me so badly. The way I approach trading is I just trade levels with invalidation and risk management. So it really doesn't matter to me if my trades don't work on any given trade. If these shorts don't print as big swing trades, that's okay with me, and I'm going to find long trades if there's long setups. But I understand that not everybody has the ability or the skills to confidently manage positions that way. I would just say that if you aren't a technical trader, you're not using any kind of invalidation, you should have a kill switch where you're comfortable taking the loss if you're wrong, right? Where you just say, listen, if you're in a position where you're sized so aggressively, so big, and you need a goddamn miracle, no, you need everything to go up 200x, or you're expecting everything to go up 200x, and if anything goes down 30, 40%, then you're in a lot of trouble, and you have no plan if that happens. You haven't managed the risk in any way. That's a really bad position to be in. Because even if you get out of that position unscathed once, if you keep doing it, it's just going to end badly. INJ, someone's asking, I'd like this low to get retested on INJ at $14. That was a big level I was looking for at the highs here. I did take that initial long. This is the daily chart. Came up and swept this high, but I wouldn't mind seeing that retested. Whether or not it will, we'll see, right? That's on log scale. But one thing that needs to be said is this is just a level I'm interested in longing. I don't think it's so far away. I don't think it's unreasonable. If it doesn't come, then that's fine. For me, I'll trade something else. I'm just set out an alert, and if I get it, I'll trade it. And I think what happens, like if an inexperienced trader is watching something like this, they try to make all of their decisions based on, if I say, I would long this level if I got it at $14. They'll say, okay, I am shorting INJ all in right here, and I'm closing all my longs, and then price says this, and they'll say, what the fuck, you got me wrecked. I went all in short, and I closed all my longs. It's like, no, I said I would long this level if I get it. I have an alert set here. That's it. And I would cut the trade if we break this level down. That's all I'm saying. If we go up higher here, then I'm not going to take this long because price didn't come down there, right? A good example is on ADA. Let's just look at this really quickly. So I took the short on ADA Short trigger will be a failure back below the highs, not shorting if we break out, sweep these highs into the GP. So I'm going to go back to the Discord. Bear with me for a moment. All right. So this is before we had the move up. Okay, so this is on the 1st, the New Year, so a week ago. So there were so critical and clean levels tapped on some charts over the holidays. What am I even saying here? For example, this ADA level got super clean 30% bounce. Christmas Eve. I think I must have been on my phone getting auto-corrected. I'm not sure. I obviously wasn't updating these charts, but worth noting, breaking out of some descending structure. For now, I'm just going to be looking for retest of these lows. So I marked out this level before we came up here as my level of interest to short. I'm going to talk about this in a second. I will just note that the peak of bottom of this move on ADA, I just wasn't around because it happened on Christmas Eve, was the level I had marked out, this 76 level into the GP. And so that's what I was saying here. Jeez. All right. So this was the long setup I had planned, right, at 76 cents, coming and tagging this low, but I didn't take the long because, but that was a swing long idea. But so it was looking for us to break out of this descending structure into this level. And then as we came up to it, we got over the next few days a really nice impulse up into the highs. I just said I'm looking for a sweep of these highs for a short trigger and shorting it back down to the lows. So that this is here on the chart. This is the short trigger. This was actually the long trigger, the long setup that I didn't take because it happened over Christmas, holidays. This would have had to be a TP for sure. But looking for this big move out of the descending structure up into these highs. But what happened here is we consolidated here for several days. And I did several updates that I'm just not going to take the short until we take these highs. And that price could have just broken down. I could have missed that trade. It's not to say anything other than to say, if I get that, I will short it. And so I did several updates. Okay, so this is when I was shorting Pepe. I didn't actually think I'd been this active. You know, it's funny because not only did I take that retest short idea on XRP, I actually gave the idea back here of the first touch of the descending structure, by the way. It's kind of clean. But, all right, let's go. And we had some really clean local rejections on. Okay, so, I guess I just talked about it in the chat, but I just said preparing to take the short now that we're about to take the highs. And I was interested on that short as well. That was my ADA short trigger. So even though I was interested from down here and here in taking these highs, I could have just missed this short. And it's not to say that I'm even bullish on ADA here. It's just to say that I will only short when we take these highs. And I could have just missed the entire trade there. So we ended up taking them, which is nice. But the same thing here, and this happens to me quite often, is I'll have an idea I want to trade like INJ. And it really is, if price comes down to these lows, I'm willing to take the trade. And oftentimes I'll have ideas I want to trade, especially high time frame ideas, that the level never comes. I never get the alert and price does something else, right? And I can't look at every single chart every day on every time frame. So some charts I'm just kind of looking at on the higher time frames, and I won't even know what's going on with the INJ otherwise. So some bullish things could happen, certainly. I don't know if I really want to take altcoin requests. I'll answer this question. Someone says, what are the best factors to decide whether my trade will be a swing or a scalp? I get a lot of perfect entries, but leave a lot of money on the table closing early or late. I would just say the simplest answer, but it's not always the correct answer in the sense that there's no perfect answer, right? Sometimes you're going to take a low time frame setup and it's going to print as a swing trade, and sometimes you're going to take a high time frame setup and it's not going to play out as a swing trade. But the simple answer is high time frame levels, high time frame structures are traded as high time frame positions. Like this is on our 4-hour chart, and I'll point out, go follow X-Force Global. Did I put this? He has these Elliott wave counts on XRP, both the triangle and the low. I actually came up with these ideas before I saw this, but he has nice ideas here on XRP. I was talking about those on Livestream. But the main idea here, for me, I'm not saying you need to use Elliott wave, but there's an Elliott wave idea for pushing much higher on XRP towards even up to $8. So I am looking for higher ultimately, but as far as the short setup goes, this is a high time frame structure. So shorting into this structure is not a scalp for 1% or 0.5%. This is a high time frame structure, should have high time frame targets. If you're trading on the 1-minute chart and you're in here and you're trading this as a range, let's say, you need to start looking at your targets in the context of this range, right? Like this has probably got to be a TP, even if price carries higher. You're trading this way. It doesn't make sense to start trading like this. This is probably the GP. Trading like setups like this and then targeting $8, because this isn't really a high time frame setup. And but it's not to say that price can't go much higher off of a low time frame higher low, but if you're always trading a low time frame setup towards high time frame targets, you're going to probably find yourself into some trouble. There's some caveats to that though, and what I would say is like sometimes you're trading low time frame structure into high time frame ideas. So if you've been following me for a little while, you'll know I was swing longing really aggressively into this uptrend. And you could claim that this is where it gets kind of confusing, that these are low time frame levels. And we're going to look at the same thing on Doge really quickly, because you can go into them on the low time frames. Let me come back here. Hopefully. You can go into these levels on the low time frames and you can say, well, these are just minor retracements, but it's a high time frame idea with the bullish consolidation grinding into an impulse, right? So this is where I would say low time frame ideas can be traded as swings. So if you have something like this, a grinding bullish uptrend, and there were similar ideas here probably on Doge, some of these minor retracements as swing trades as well. But that gets a little more complicated because there's no simple answer, right? Like those are built into Elliott wave ideas. But I think generally speaking, the solution to the problem is high time frame levels, high time frame targets. And you have to, for me, I just have to be willing to round trip. Like, let's just say I get this trade set up on ADA. Let's just clean this off. So let's say price comes down to these lows and I get this trigger, this reaction. For me, at the very least, these highs have to be the target. I have to resist the temptation to take profits on a wick and treat it as a scalp, because you don't get the opportunity to trade high time frame levels very often. That's what, by definition, right? They're high time frame. Like major lows like this, major highs like this don't come every day, so they're not scalps. And if you seize that opportunity and you just say, I'm willing to take a round trip, I'm willing to take a stop, because if I'm not, I will never have a swing trade. I will never. If your style of trading is trading into support long and short into resistance, obviously you can look for like breakout setups as well that are different, but this example this is a high time frame breakout, so if you're trading it like that as well, same concepts could apply. But high time frame levels, high time frame targets. Yeah, like there was quite a bit of chop on this Pepe trade. It's not a massive swing trade or anything, but it was 50% to all-time highs. And I actually gave this exact example. I'm not gonna. I maybe covered it on. You know what? I think I covered it on a live stream, and it would have been check right around here, the November 28th. But so I had this long setup plan on Pepe, and I actually got essentially a Pico bottom long, targeting into these highs. And somebody actually asked me that exact question, if I would take profits here. And I just said, I really can't, because the only reason I'm taking some of these trades is because I've taken this trade hundreds of times. I know sometimes it's not going to work and sometimes it will work, but I don't know which ones are going to work. And I have to let the ones that are going to work. Or there's no point in me ever trading this setup, because if I'm always turning my winners into this, a 1R, and then I take my losers, then this isn't really an edge. For me to realize my edge, I need to trade this setup as the range. And I think I updated that several times, that I had to hold that position to the highs. And you just have to be willing to let that play out and understand that not every trade's going to work as a swing trade, but you have to let the ones that do work, and for that to happen you have to hold the position. And I would just say, don't try to trade low time frame levels into high time frame targets. So if you're finding that you are often, you said closing too early, so that makes me sound like, it makes it sound like you're more of a swing trader maybe. Now of course you're gonna find situations, this would be like a breakdown trade, where you take a low time frame setup and maybe you're shorting something here, and had you just held it, price just went straight down. And sometimes, so this is actually such a, join my Discord and come learn about all this stuff. But there's so many situations too where you're scalping something with the idea of potentially turning it into a swing trade. Like you're kind of taking it because you're like, I'm willing to take profits. I can scalp this as a range, but if we see continued weakness, I'm going to hold it. And if we and I might just take partial profits and build a swing position, move the rest to break even. I even said, because I did this members live stream here, I said this bearish divergence is so big here. This is really shortable. Like you could justify just shorting this with a stop above the highs, and even though I had a long idea just down here, I said, there's really, because of the bearish divergences in order flow, there's quite a few scenarios. There's scenarios where you just can end up holding this on a big nuke. And it actually is quite a big, in this case, it could have been a 10, 11, 12-hour trade, 8R, 5R, 7R. And yes, you could close it if you start reclaiming the level, cut it at break even, but just, this is just an idea where you're not really saying, oh, this is my bread and butter swing trade setup. It's just you have massive bearish divergences forming, and you can justify shorting that as a potential swing if price just gives it to you, because you have this big bearish divergence. And you don't, even though there's long ideas down here, which we saw, you don't have, you don't know what's going to happen yet. And so as price comes down here, we just might start breaking down and nuking, which we did. And then so I think one of the reasons like somebody might not take this short, for example, would be they would just think, well, yeah, I think we're going to go lower, but then we're going to wipe out the longs, we're going to bounce. But we might not. And so you have all this flexibility if you're in this short to just see what's happening and say, okay, I'm going to hold some of this and just put the rest at break even because we're just nuking. The guy mentioned X-Force Global on Twitter. He's got great Elliott wave counts. It's been killing it. Yeah, that's a great Mark Douglas quote. You can't eat like a bird and shit like an elephant. Or your trading account's not going to last very long. So you gotta let the winners win. So you say I bought the bottom of 88 ETH dot on election day and closed them at 3%. Well, part of that too. I don't know your situation exactly and your experience, Eamon, but is some of this stuff, it just takes time to learn, right? Like it's like you don't have the experience to hold the trade because you haven't been in the situation enough times. And so maybe your setup isn't so clear, like you long it, but you have no confidence. And it can be quite hard to remain confident in an idea, even if it's working for you, because there's so many psychological issues that you have to deal with, which I'm trying to remember, where did I write all this down? You know what? Let me just go. This is going to be helpful. When did I write this? Or where did I write this? This is actually almost, I think, a perfect answer to this question. Let me just go up here. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. By the way, a little bit of bearish divergences for me here. We'll keep an eye on order flow for a second. Okay, let me use my brain. What would be a keyword to search? Okay, let me go like this. I'm gonna find it right here. All right. Oh yeah, this is where I wrote it. Maybe this is too long. You should probably just come into the Discord and read it. But basically, what happens is there's just it's way longer than I thought, so I'm not gonna read all this. But you build up a lot of psychological, emotional baggage in your trading. So here's an example. When someone is approaching a new trade after, say, a series of 2 to 3 losses, they can quickly start adjusting how they approach their trading decisions. They may feel the impulse to quickly take new trades that aren't clearly defined in an attempt to recover from losses, or they may avoid trading the next setup or signal to avert further losses. But here's the example, which is a very common cycle that new traders find themselves as a mini loss streak trap, which actually turns into a devastating losing streak that evaporates your edge. It looks something like this. Lose 2 trades, don't take the 3rd trade because you don't want to lose another trade. The 3rd trade would have printed, you're frustrated, and you try to chase the 4th trade to make up for not taking the 3rd trade. That trade loses, and you maybe chase it with one more random trade that loses. You are now very frustrated because you took 2 initial losses, missed your winning trade, and then 2 more losses with poorly structured trades. You enter your 5th trade that's a proper signal that's meant to run to 8R, but you close it at 2R to make up for your last 2 losses. You don't want to round trip the one winner you're in out of your last 6 trades, but because you do that, you never realize the edge. And so that's just emotional baggage from your trading. You're making your trading decisions based on what happened off your last trades, which have nothing to do with your current trade. And it just takes a lot of personal work and experience to figure some of that stuff out, right? Because it's so hard to kind of answer these in one kind of blurb answers, because everybody's problem is different and it's usually not what they think. A lot of people really have the impression that they're closer to the solution than they probably are. Like, oh, I always long the bottom, but I close it too early, or I always, short the top, or it's just the one trade I didn't take that would have worked. And but it's not so simple. Like, if you've price does a lot of things, right? So it's like, for example, a really common thing that people find themselves in, or a problem they find themselves in, is they'll say like, oh my God, I bought butt coin or shit coin or Pepe coin 2 years ago, and I closed it at 20% and it went up 5 zillion percent. I knew I should have just held it. It's like, bro, you're never holding that. Like, or I bought Bitcoin when it was at $100. I should have just held it. It's like, and so they live in a fantasy where they take this scenario where they like, or something went down 40% and they closed it, but if they just held it for 2 more years, it went up 10,000%. It's like, yeah, if anyone just says, if every trade they opened that they closed that then went on to go much deeper, either higher or lower, whether short or long, they'd be the best trader in the world. And I think people do a mini version of that in their heads, where their kind of hindsight analysis is like, you wouldn't believe it. I had a long on Pepe down here, and I closed it here, or but that's like their kind of entire post analysis of their trading. Because the problem is, like, let's just say, for example, I'm going to hold this short and I might round trip it, or I might hold it down into the lows, and then I'll flash a big P&L card on Twitter and everyone will get mad. But I have a lot of experience that allows me to just justify doing that, right? Because I know not every trade's going to work. Here's a really good example. I longed the shit out of XRP. I longed this low as a swing trade towards all-time highs. Literally longed here. Like, I could find, I'm just gonna, just for some evidence here. But this is important because I also longed and round tripped. Where the flip? What did I say? I said something funny when I longed that. I said, like, if I'm an XRP a year from now. What did I say? Oh, I said stage an intervention. I'm just looking for a keyword to search. All right. So I longed, this is, 2024 at 1031. This is when XRP was at 50 cents. I longed this and I said, I should say, I have a swing long here on XRP. Don't judge me if we're still in this range a year from now and I become an XRP maxi stage and intervention. So that was this setup. And then I added to my longs like crazy into this and got rewarded for that greatly. Now, this was a hard long to take in the sense that I also had I had this Pico bottom long as well, and I round tripped almost everything from this. I got a little bit off of it. and I actually had added into some of this and round tripped as well. So one of the reasons that there's a whole bullish thesis on this big triangle breakout, I'm not going to go into it, of XRP going towards all-time highs. And I was willing to long, hold Pico bottom longs and round trip Pico bottom longs and add round trip adding to longs. And it didn't really bother me that much. It's a little bit annoying. And then I was willing to do it all again. And this time it worked. And it's just, it takes a lot of experience to not have this trauma. It's not trauma, but not for me anyways. I haven't been an XRP maxi through all these many years. I caught the tail end. But to round trip some really great entries, and although it doesn't look like much now when we look at the chart, these were still nice moves, 30%. And to do it all again and just understand the setup's not validated, I'm just going to make the same play again. And I need to be willing to hold these trades as a swing if I'm ever going to be in this trade to all-time highs and print 50, 60, 70, 100 R trades. I have to be willing to also round trip trades like this. So it cuts both ways. And sometimes you're going to say, oh my God, I should have just closed the whole thing. Obviously I should have just closed it and I could have captured all that profit. But if I do that every time I have a deep swing thesis, then I'll never hold a swing trade. Because yes, there's going to be times, but this holding it this one time, adding to this position, more than paid for round tripping. Okay, I lost a lot here in the, I have some alerts going off that I need to move. Too many alerts in here. Could easily come back. I'm gonna retest these highs too. We'll see. Yeah, someone says, I do agree with you on the swing trade, but I find that if price breaks down below the GP, it very rarely then reverses, so I close it early. My logic is no one ever lost money taking profits. It's definitely a double-edged sword, right? Because you have to take profits in the context of your trade. So let's just say you have a 50% win rate, but you only ever take 0.5 R and you're taking profits, you're going to be a losing trader, right? If you take 2 R on average from your trades, then you're going to be a winning trader. But you can take profits on individual trades and just lose more trades than you win, and you can lose money taking profits. Like for an edge, I've said this so many times. Like this, I'm not going to go into it. There's this setup I trade, and it's printed so massively. And the only reason I'm taking that trade requires me to hold it. Like, let's just say it has a 20% win rate, but it prints 20 R. The edge in that trade is not to take 1 R off of it, which is like risk 1%, make 1%, because I wouldn't take the trade if that's what I was doing. I have to let that trade run deep because the edge is in the ones that print, right? And so I wouldn't take the trade if I was going to close it instantly, because there's no edge then in it, right? Someone's saying, can you elaborate on what do you mean by claiming / losing a level? Maybe show an example of each. How do you identify lost / claimed? To be honest, like a lot of this stuff is covered in a lot of depth in the Discord. There's just so much to cover. There's so much context. Like there's not really a single answer to every question. And it's kind of hard just to like, doing a live stream and like teach everyone everything about trading. But we had I'll give one example here. We had these lows on, did this front run the GP? No, there was actually a really clean trend line here, by the way, really clean trend line into the GP. So I'll give two examples. Here, we swept these lows. I would consider this is kind of a sweep and a reclaim in a sense, and then this is a sweep, reclaim, retest, rally. And we came off of those with a lot of trap shorts. Let's go here. So we swept these lows, 60 million aggressive shorts opening, increase in open interest, a big bullish divergence forming here. We reclaimed the level and we impulse off of it. We see continued bullish absorption. I would say that this is a sweep of the level and a retest. One thing that gets people kind of confused is, and this is because there's not one answer, they'll say, well, sometimes the level sweeps and reclaims and then it gets lost again. How do I know that it's reclaimed the level and it's not going to go, like, for example, it's not going to go down here? You don't know. If you knew, you would never lose. There's no single answer, and there's a lot of different scenarios. So this is a nice idea of trap shorts under the lows, people shorting the breakdown, get an impulse, you even get the retest. And then this is an example of a quick wick and the level's never retested, right? So here you're rewarded for longing aggressively right into the wick, right into the trend line, into the GP, instantly rewarded. Here, if you did the same, you'd have a situation where price comes down and retests the level, and you could have longed on the retest, but you're not always going to get that opportunity. Here, you're kind of rewarded for longing the wick, but then you maybe ran out on a stop if you didn't have any reason to take profits here, or maybe you're taking a break even, just depends. But then you're long again here. So there's no single answer to what, like, the ADA is a really good example here. I took the short and then price went higher, right? But my invalidation was higher. So I took this short on the initial sweep of, these highs aren't marked out here. I took the short on the initial sweep, price went a little higher, but my invalidation was higher. Then we broke down. But price spent quite a bit of time here, multiple hours above the level. But this level is a region I'm interested in shorting. Let me get rid of this on XRP. But here on XRP, this trigger came instantly. In fact, I did an update here when this level was hit. We ran up to the level, and the first 0.6% rejection came in 5 seconds. So here, I'm just updating this in the Discord. We wick through this level, just updating when we were wicking through the level. Quick reaction, and this initial reaction off the level, 0.6%, and we ended up just going essentially straight down from there in a 5-second candle. 0.6% happened in the 5-second candle. So you're rewarded for just shorting this aggressively. So my whole point here is, if I have a level I want to trade and I see some nice volume, spike, reaction, I'll just enter the trade. I'll enter it aggressively. If price is trading above a level, it's reclaimed. If it's trading below it, it's lost. Like, somebody will say, like, oh, I always wait for a 4-hour close. But it's like, if you wait for a 4-hour close on this setup, I mean, you're gonna miss the trade. Price is trading below the level. It's below it. It's reclaimed it. You could be in that long, and I would be considering cutting it if we are losing the level. There's kind of some more context, different situations where that might be. There's some caveats to it, but I find often when people are asking me the question about how do you know if a level's reclaimed or lost, like you could just be saying, let's just go for a scenario here on ETH. Say somebody wanted to short a sweep of this high on ETH, and they say, I wanted to short this, but how do I tell? The price went through the level, but I couldn't tell if it was lost or claimed. But it's like, well, price wicked above it and never went back above it and went straight down. It's like, but how do I know when to enter the trade? And then I waited too long, and then I was waiting for a retest, but it's like, well, what are you afraid? What are you trying to figure out here? And what I find often people are trying to do is they're trying never to lose a trade, because what they're afraid of is they're going to take that short, and then price is going to do this. Well, it's like, then you're going to take a loss. But they're saying, well, how do I know the level's lost? Well, because price is trading below it. What else is it? It's not a trick. It's just there's no way to know what's going to happen. It might hold, it might not. And it's like the same thing on this ADA trade. I took the short. I don't know what's going to happen. It might hold, it might not. How do I know it's lost? Well, I didn't know it was lost because I took the trade, and then price went a little higher through the level, about 1.4% higher, and then broke down. So, anyways. Just reading through the chat really quick. There's just some questions here. It's quite late for me. This is my third live stream today, and it's midnight. There's just some long questions that I'm not saying this to be rude, but just it would take like an hour to answer some of these questions. There's no way to say like, oh, it's green. I think, that you don't have to join my Discord. There's lots of different, resources out there, but I do think that if you're trading but you're asking some of these questions, you need to spend some time in developing, getting some real proper educational content, because what you're seeking right now is you're seeking foundational ideas during a live stream of somebody covering live charts, and you can't really, this is not the place, right? It's sort of like if somebody was doing a presentation on something, and it's I don't know, physics or something, and you're like, can you explain to me the foundations of physics and what this foundational element is and this foundational element, and can you explain what this is? And it's just not the place for it, right? If you're interested in that sort of thing, there's a lot. I don't know. I'm not saying it to be rude. I'm saying it to encourage you. Go get some books. Go seek out those resources, because really, a lot of these things there's a lot of caveats to some of these answers. There's no way to answer them quickly. It's like I'm kind of trying to do my best, but I have a lot of content and it's sort of what I do all the time, I guess. But I mean, my target on my ADA short is down into these lows as of now. I mean, these levels need to be watched. We could easily range here. Could come take these highs again, but target is down back into these lows. Not a lot of structure here if we start breaking down, but I mean, taking the short at the highs, but understanding we still have some structure to lose here. I covered my main view on Bitcoin at the start of the live stream. I'm pretty tired actually. I wanted to get on live a little bit. I'm gonna probably be updating my thoughts a little bit tomorrow. But we'll see what shakes out while I'm sleeping. Take a look at the charts. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up the live stream here. I'll pop into the public Discord tomorrow as well. Are you a member, Pristine? Says, what's your targets on ADA? I think your thoughts on targets, especially on a short in a bull market, would be nice. I shared all my levels in the Discord, all my charts. And I talked about them at the start of the live stream too. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. If we get 300K tomorrow, then that'd be great. All right, I'll chat to you guys later. See ya. Yeah, we're gonna kill it. We're gonna kill it. This will be the best year ever. 100%.